Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 48 of Rocket Lab Weekly. Are we live?
Looks like it, yeah.
On my... Okay, good. And do you see any comments? It's a bit weird on my screen.
Nothing yet, no.
Okay. I hope everything is working. So I'm gonna also check it out on... No, I don't have my phone here. Test. I see your comment. Okay, good. So we are here. Everything seems to be working. Yeah, thank you so much, Dawson. Good afternoon, Jen. So how has your week been?
It's been a busy week. My little brother got married on the past weekend, and so I'm still trying. Is your little
brother Dave G?
He just started no 1 week apart.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's been a pretty hectic week, and yeah, it was car needed work, insurance needed to be looked into and stuff. So had my hands full for sure. How was your week?
Yeah, pretty busy myself. It's so weird because both my stocks, Palantir and Rocket Lab, they're doing amazing. And it's like I have such a hard time as a content creator to like create content when the stocks are like, like on the top and doing really, really good, because I feel like, our role is, like help find undervalued companies. And then, when it's not going good, then, like keep showing the research, like this is the company. And then when they're doing good, it's like all you have to do is like just wait and hold. And so as an investor, I was really, really happy. I'm very happy. I think I 3x'd my portfolio since 2022. I have to look at it, but last week at some point, I think the portfolio was 3x, either from 2021 or 2022, which I think is nuts.
No kidding.
And yeah, so as an investor, fantastic. As a content creator, it's like I need new motivation. So a quick tricky question: how do you feel about your decision to trim your position a little bit? And just for the people, we keep this respectful. And you didn't turn into a Rocket Lab bear. You trimmed a very small part of your position, which a lot of people have done, and it's understandable.
I'm not feeling too bad. I haven't added back in. I was kind of looking at it in 6. I was like kind of calculating what would be like how many more shares would I get, offloading.
You saw that 7.10, right, or something like this.
Honestly, I don't remember. It was a few cents off $7. I can't remember if it was under or over, but it was right in that zone. Yeah, it was just kind of.
So on the short term, congrats, you did right. Yeah,
we'll see where it goes.
Okay, sorry. So back to what I was saying. So you're still confident, or do you have a number in mind that if it goes down to this, then I'm buying back? Or
probably 550 is what I'm thinking. Or I don't know, maybe like nothing concrete yet. I'm just kind of just sitting on my hands. It feels like anything short of like some big contract announcements, I don't expect Rocket Lab to do much, because we're kind of having a bit of a slower quarter. We kind of know what to expect, and I think all the exciting stuff will happen in a few months anyway. So
yeah, I think the same way. Curtis, oh my God, this guy is so amazing. Every weekly he gives a super chat, and on top of it, he has even sent. I think he sent you also something, no? Or
yeah, I got the care package.
Yeah, I also got this. I haven't received the I know he sent some t-shirts and stuff. I got notifications that they're coming through customs. I saw on Twitter that Dave G has received it. I haven't yet received it, but I know that it's on the way. So just really appreciate you, Curtis. And yeah, Matt is on vacation. Like, that's how good he feels. He retired, guys. So I don't know if we will have him back. He was looking at private islands as he tweets all the time, and I guess he found one, and now he's away. And Dave G is getting married, so we're on skeleton crew here. Like the toughest guys who make it this week. Cool. So let's go through Rocket Lab news. There is one news, which is the insider selling, which we're going to come to. I'm really interested to hear your opinion on, but we're not going to start with that one. It's a hook for people to stay interested. But so we're going to start with Rocket Lab going to Mars on New Glenn's inaugural mission, which is creeping closer. It's basically 6 weekish away. Rocket Lab is 100% ready. I hear rumors that Blue Origin, they lost. Was it a first stage or something that they lost in the factory due to production errors, or was it a tank?
I'm not too sure. I know what you're talking about, though. Like, my understanding is that there was a fire that affected New Glenn 2 and New Glenn 3. So, I mean, in theory, everything's still good to go for October 13th, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure the extent of the damage.
Yeah, and if they miss this, I have read somewhere that this is the end of the Mars window, because Mars and Earth, this is where you see I'm swimming naked when it comes to science. Like I'm not a scientist. So Mars and Earth, like, they align every 2 years when they revolve around the sun. And if they don't launch now, then they will miss this alignment, which means that the next launch is in 2 years. And more on this later. But what do you think are the odds that they're going to make it?
I don't know. I would put them at 60%, I suppose, and even that's probably optimistic. Like, it's just, I don't know, when you consider like all of the, I mean, look at literally any other launch. Like, have they ever been like, we're going to launch on this date, and they hit it?
Yeah. And
kind of to what you're saying, the launch window is going to be closing on the 21st, as I understand. So they have between October 13th and October 21st, and I think to what you're saying, I think it's 18 months. Maybe someone in chat can correct me, but I think it's every 18 months is when Mars opens up for another attempt.
This is a stock channel, not a science channel. So you guys, when it comes to the science things, feel free to correct us in the comments. Yeah, no first launch for anyone has been 100% success, except for Rocket Lab. But yeah, it's not 100%. It was blown up by the NASA guys. So I was thinking, Rocket Lab released a video about the landers with Peter Beck. So I was thinking we could watch it together if I can get my audio work. Do you hear anything?
No, nothing yet.
No. Okay, let me try again. Let me see if I share the screen again. Maybe then the audio can also share audio. Yeah.
Space Systems
is there audio now?
I heard Peter's voice for a second there. Yeah.
Good. That is confirmation. That is good. So let's watch this. It's 2 minutes, and then we talk about it.
Going to Mars is awesome. It's incredibly fulfilling, not just from an engineering perspective, but I guess from a human discovery perspective. We are sending 2 spacecraft to Mars to learn things that have never been discovered or learned before.
Rocket Lab was contracted by University of Berkeley to build the 2 spacecraft buses. So we will carry Berkeley's 8-kilogram payloads to Mars to investigate the interactions between the solar wind and the Martian atmosphere.
Rocket Lab's Space Systems is about trying to build an end-to-end space company. The Space Systems division encompasses from very small components through to complete designs and entire satellites and even operating satellites on orbit.
So on the Escapade mission, we have tons of different engineers behind it. We have GNC, we have software, we have electrical, mechanical, communications, propulsion. There's so many different, pieces of the puzzle that have to come together, and we've got so many people behind it that lend their expertise to those areas, and it's just important that we bring them all together and they'll become part of the overall spacecraft.
Both spacecraft feature a lot of components that were internally designed and developed and built at Rocket Lab. And Rocket Lab is pretty astute about vertical integration. So we will usually choose to bring in-house and develop items that give us an edge given the mission, so that allow us to work faster or allow us to push the design envelope.
If you pull apart the Escapade spacecraft, it's full of Rocket Lab logos, whether it be reaction wheels or star trackers, propellant systems, tanks, software, you name it. It's just an agglomeration of all Rocket Lab's components and expertise neatly wrapped up in a package to deliver to Mars.
The other big benefits of working in-house on the development of many components is that we control the timelines, and being able to execute for our customer fast is critical. Being able to turn around a full spacecraft in 3.5 years is hard. Doing so for an interplanetary is also very hard, but it's par for the course here at Rocket Lab.
We've got so many different teams here, not just based on site here in Long Beach, but across the United States, across Canada, across New Zealand. And so we've all got to collaborate together and make sure that all of our expertise comes together to build the final spacecraft.
I like people to take extreme pride in the things they make. And then when you build these things with lots of pride and passion, they generally always look beautiful.
Being able to work on this mission is really exciting. I think it'll highlight for a lot of our the team. We're pretty excited for them to go off on their mission and do good things.
Cool. So that was the video, and I just want to share one other piece of news that has to do with this launch, and then I think we can go more into details. So Peter Beck gave an interview to Mashable.com, and it was about these two satellites, and he said the following. So I always joke that we're the only non-billionaire led space company right now. Peter Beck, CEO of Rocket Lab, told Mashable, our two biggest competitors are the two wealthiest people on the planet, and most unfortunate for our PR and comms department, I'm probably a really boring kind of CEO. I don't post controversial things and I don't do crazy stuff. I'm just trying to build rockets. And here is one that is very interesting. If successful, the mission could set an example for how NASA and the commercial space industry approach interplanetary missions at a lower cost in the future. From soup to nuts, Escapade had a budget of 80 million under NASA's Small Innovative Missions for Planetary Exploration program. Rocket Lab built the twin satellites in just 3.5 years for 57 million, a bargain basement price relative to the multi-billions the agency would normally spend for a complex mission beyond Earth's orbit. So that was a mouthful, but now I'm done with everything that I wanted to say. So like the reason why I want to talk about this is because Peter Beck in our interview, and I think in multiple interviews, have said that the really revolutionary thing about the Escapade mission is the price that they were able to produce these satellites at. And I think he was stressing something with that. So what do you think are the future implications of this? And yeah, what do you think about this Escapade mission?
I mean, I just hope it's successful. That's really it. I feel like it's going to open a lot of doors if all things go well. Granted, though, those doors will inevitably open once it does happen. Like Rocket Lab is going to get to Mars one way or another, but it's just having that optic of being like, yeah, we've been to the moon, and then we've been to Mars, and then hopefully sooner than later, Venus as well. It's just a good look overall. So, and I mean, yeah, like to what you're saying as far as like the price tag on these, that's pretty phenomenal. That's like what, 25 million give or take per satellite. Like that's pretty impressive. They're doing a lot with a little.
Yeah, for interplanetary, right? Not some what is it? Not some LEO satellite that is still in Earth's magnetic protection. It's a very impressive price.
Definitely.
And I can't help but wonder when Peter Beck mentions it specifically, like, hey guys, pay attention to this. Like he could have said so many things, like the engineering, or like like the speed that we did it with. And no, he's like, the budget that it was done in is it really opens up interplanetary exploration for a lot of agencies or companies, but so far it's mostly governments that are interested in this, and Elon Musk. And something tells me he's not going to be a Rocket Lab customer soon.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Now we go to the next topic. I think you're going to like this one. So it looks like Rocket Lab has filed with the FCC to authorize a new suborbital HASTE launch that is no earlier than November 2024. Well, what do you think the significance of this is? Who is the customer? How many launches do you think are coming? Spill us the beans, Mr. Scotto.
Well, this aligns with rumor from maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, when they mentioned no HASTE launches until the fall. And so that this is probably what we're looking at. And as far as if this is the next one upcoming, not sure. Like, I mean, maybe there could be one in October or something, but I assume we're still expecting 2 this year, 2 HASTE launches. And then, and then you could even go as far as like bringing that old quote up from Brian Rogers, I think he's a global flight director, I think is his title. But he mentioned like 3 or 4 this year. So I don't know. At this point, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Maybe it was a miscommunication because it wasn't in an interview like it wasn't a video interview. I can't hear him say it myself. So maybe the reporter was just kind of like, oh, I think he said such and such and ran with that story. But yeah, it looks like we're going to land on hopefully 2 this year. 1 for sure in November, I suppose. But then as far as who this is for, it's either Leidos' second mission with HASTE, or the confidential one that was announced, I think it was Q3 of last year. But it's one of those. So I'm unclear. And if you look at the documentation for it as well, it's just like black bars and black bars, like everything's redacted. So there's not much we can glean from that as far as who it's for, but at least we know November. So that's something to take away, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And it's how many of these HASTE launches have they done? This is the second?
Just one so far, yeah. So this will be the second.
Yeah. And again, Peter Beck said in our interview that HASTE is going to be a big part of Rocket Lab. So hopefully this starts getting the snowball rolling on those HASTE launches.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to address a comment here. Jacques Trehorn, or Jacques, yeah, I probably butchered your name. I'm sorry. When is Buffett going to put some of that Apple money in Rocket Lab? Seems like a better buy than Ulta. And I absolutely agree with you. However, I think that Buffett has a few problems. Do you know how big Ulta Beauty is?
I'm too sure. No.
Okay, it must be way bigger than Rocket Lab. Anyways, I'm not gonna look it up, but I watched a very interesting video by Jeremy Financial Education, who made this point that Buffett has so much money that the number of companies that he can buy without, because I think that he has to, if he owns more than 10% of the company, it becomes like somehow a problem for him. Maybe you can correct me on this, Scott, that he goes over like some legal limit and then he has like extra reporting to do, and then he usually doesn't own more than 10%, or he buys the company outright.
Something like that, yeah. That's what I understand as well. I know with like Rocket Lab in particular, anytime that somebody is more than a 10% owner, they have to, like, there's a whole, like, you have to report anytime you do anything with your shares.
Yeah. And that 10% number on Rocket Lab is like $350 million. And I don't think $350 million is big enough for Buffett to even have a look at the company. So there is very few companies that are big enough that Buffett can buy into. And also this point by Brett that it's a pre-profitable company, and I think that we need to be buying before Buffett is buying in, and I think that's what we're doing, and that's okay. I mean, Buffett has missed Apple for a very long time, He missed Tesla, he missed Microsoft, he missed Amazon also for a very long time. So hopefully this is one of those stories, you know, when people look at the chart and it's like, oh, the retail was buying here, and then you know, it went like this, and then Buffett bought here, and then still kept going up. All right, so we go to the next story. This I really like as a Rocket Lab investor, because Peter always stresses how they are not just building a minimum viable product rocket that they're trying to get to the pad to appease investors and you know, show nice videos. And by the way, I'm pretty sure that that's why they're not releasing a full sound hot fire video, which I would really love them to do. I think their philosophy is like, that's what everybody else is doing to appease investors, and we're not going to do that. And I don't know why they don't just release it, but I think that that's why they're doing that. And here with this picture, they are showing that it's, you know, the Archimedes engine is really a production line that is rolling off engines, and you know, they're starting the scaling process. And I'm very happy to see this. What was your opinion when you saw this tweet?
I'm surprised at the timing, because I kind of was more under the impression that they would get like a number of tests that would, like, at least they would see a hot fire video, kind of as you're saying. So I'm not sure. You can still see me, right? Not sure. One of my screens just went off.
Definitely.
What was I saying? Yeah, I was just surprised by the timing, because I thought, like, maybe if the hot fire, the first test didn't go quite according to plan, they'd make a number of tweaks. So seeing these two engines, and granted, we don't know if these are like fully operational, or if maybe there's a couple of pieces that still need to be put on, but I mean, yeah, I'm surprised at the timing, like pleasantly surprised. So it's good to see.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're on purpose not releasing a hot fire test video. I mean, like at this point, it's as you said, like it's completely out of order. Like, why would they be producing two new? And these look very done. Like they look like they're on on a pallet, or not pallets. Is it pallets? Yeah. Ready to be transported away. So we can ask Peter in our next interview, why have you not released? We need that damn hot fire video. Maybe they will release like Neutron, you know, when it's flying up, and then yeah, that's probably more the thing. Cool. So now we come to the one where I'm really interested in your opinion, and that's the insider selling. So this week there was some forms filed, and there was some insider selling by certain individuals, and some was not surprising, some was surprising. So I want to hear your comments about this and what you think.
I think most of it is just like to cover taxes. Like, I'm not too surprised by any of this. I mean, the Michael Griffin one is just like, I guess he just doesn't want to hold shares, which I don't know. At any time, in my opinion, that you're looking through the board of directors and they don't have a stake in the company, or in, you know, especially are selling, it's a big red flag. Like Adam, and sorry if I mispronounced, but Arjun, like that's just to cover taxes. Whereas Michael Griffin is just, I don't know. You know, maybe it's like he's later in life, so he's kind of just like, let's take the money and live it up for what's left. But I'm not too concerned by the selling. It's not a good look for Michael, though.
Yeah.
What do you think of it? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like Michael and Arjun, I'm 100% that was also tax, and I think Adam Spice has also said in the interviews that he's trying to keep as many Rocket Lab shares as he can, but when he gets paid in shares, I don't know if everybody in the audience understands how this works, but when you get exercise, and I think you're better on the numbers than I am, but the logic is this, that when you're given Rocket Lab shares, it's not a monetary compensation, but let's say you're given the shares at $4. I would love to have someone here who can explain this better. But I know, so there's different types of stock-based compensation. But for example, if you exercise options, that means that you have to buy Rocket Lab shares. So if you bought, like if your exercise price is $4, then and the share is currently at $6, then you basically earn a $2 profit on your shares, and then there is a tax implication to that, and the only way to pay that tax is you need to sell your shares to cover the tax. And I'm sure that this is, or not I'm sure, like this is way more complicated than I explained, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah, no, you explained it well enough. It's like, despite them being like free shares, there still is, like they're still expected to pay a certain amount, and that's just kind of what you're seeing here. It's just them selling, because again, they're not selling a lot. Adam and Arjun, they're not selling a lot. They're selling kind of bare minimum, and it's just to cover the taxes that need to be paid. So
yeah. And could you remind me who Michael Griffiths is on the board? Like, what's his expertise and what's his...
I don't think so. No, I know he's a director. That's all I have for this particular section. Okay,
because the idea that I got in my head, or what I remember about him, is that he had like like he was hired as like for his good connections,
Oh yeah, he's he was the former undersecretary for Defense for Research and Engineering for the DoD, exactly. I believe.
Exactly. So yeah, like government. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was leaving the company at one point. But he is basically a hire that is told that, okay, if you get us DoD contracts, do you think you can do it? Yes. Then we give you shares, or you get this compensation, and you're part of the board. And that's how he's in the company, and he's probably on the board of other companies also. And I don't think he has the deepest of commitments to Rocket Lab, especially if he's selling so many of his shares. But he's also not like the key man in Rocket Lab and the key. I mean, I would be nervous if Adam Spice was selling 48% or Peter Beck, or that would not be looking good.
And he might just be kind of on his way out too, because was at 35 years previous. So I mean, he's got to be at least in his 50s, 60s, maybe. And I'm not sure about the term length for the directors at Rocket Lab, but I'm assuming 3 years, maybe, probably 3 years. So it looks like give or take Q3 of 2022 is when he entered Rocket Lab, judging by the number of shares. So he might just be kind of wrapping things up there. So maybe that's not such a red flag after all.
Yeah, we're getting some really good info in the comments here that he's a former NASA administrator. And probably this Ken guy who was recently hired is going to replace him. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it also doesn't hurt to have two of these guys on the board. And, Ken helps with the Lockheed Martin and financing, and this guy helps with the DoD contracts. But anyways, very good. Curtis, hey, no, I'm 55, man. That's not old, Scotto. Yeah, we have to be careful when it comes to age. Cool. That was all the Rocket Lab, direct Rocket Lab related news. Now I want to go over some very interesting space industry news. This one was straight shocking for me. I don't know if you saw it. So this one is about Firefly. Jonathan McDowell, who was a lot on the Wild Wild Space documentary, he tweeted, of the 8 satellites launched on the last Firefly space launch on July 4th, after almost 2 months, only one has been identified in the Space Track Org, or the S4S SDA. Did all the rest fail? 7 out of 8 seems surprising if not launch vehicle related. And then he corrects himself. The missing satellites are CubeSat 1 and Serenity. Sorry, miscounted in the above tweet. 7 out of the 9 missing. MESAT and CatSat are successfully identified. Firefly has also gotten a new CEO announced this week. Just curious, what do you think about this news?
The satellites or the CEO?
I mean, we can look at Firefly in this section, so you can tell me about both, but first and foremost about the satellites now.
The satellites, that's odd because it was a rideshare mission. So if it was all just like one customer and they launched 7 satellites and they didn't all work, it's kind of like, well, did you forget a couple screws or something? But seeing that there's a number of satellites from different suppliers that all didn't work, that could be something relating to Firefly as being the issue, something probably to do with like the vibration or something during the launch. Because that is very unusual for 7 of 9, like just the likelihood of that many just not picking up signal.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not a good story, I don't think.
Yeah, I thought about it a lot, right? And so basically, if your spacecraft is in the correct altitude and in the correct orbit at the correct orbital speed, I have never before this, but maybe I'm inexperienced, heard that a rocket failed to dispense a satellite. Like, have you ever heard this?
No, and like I was listening to an interview yesterday with Leo Labs CEO, and to make a long story short, they track orbital debris, and they to really simplify it, it's like they are able to detect, I think it's 20,000 different objects in space. So like pieces as small as a few inches in size. So for them to not be able to find satellites that they know exactly where they are, like that's kind of not like, it seems very unlikely. So I don't know how you lose satellites, especially if you know exactly where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that was also in my head, and I was like, okay, but you know, the shaking of the rocket, like you simulate that, and probably you over engineer. Like if you know that the vibration is X, then normally you engineer for like 3X, especially in the space industry. So I'm very curious because obviously the conclusion that is easy to jump to is that it's something wrong with the launch vehicle. But I have seen a lot of rocket failures in my time. I've never seen a rocket not like making it to the correct orbit and then not being able to dispense the satellites. So were they like lying that it was like not in the correct place and their their systems was not giving the correct data about where the rocket is?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or was there like some manufacturing malfunction? Like, did these satellites come from the same factory and then there was like something wrong in the production of those satellites?
I don't know. Really not too sure what to think.
Yeah, I guess we just have to wait for the news. And what do you think of them as a company? Because they had the previous CEO who was involved in a relationship scandal. He said that next year they're going to be cash flow positive. I don't understand how he can make that statement, and I don't understand how how they would make it. They have a new CEO. Curtis says that it's actually a good choice. What do you think about their situation?
Probably for the best. Their last CEO, he also mentioned that they were that Firefly was the only small launch provider, and this was at the time that Rocket Lab had just surpassed their 50th mission. So he like, I don't have a lot of respect for the guy, and like
that's the old CEO.
The old CEO. Yeah, when I saw the new CEO, and like honestly, even just seeing the last CEO depart was good news in my opinion. You know, and granted, it's like you got to take with a grain of salt, like how infectious was Bill Weber. Because a lot of the time it's like, yeah, we got rid of the CEO, but it's like, well, he was buddies with the CFO who did more of the same shenanigans. So hopefully it was just kind of like get rid of the one guy, the bullshitter, and then hopefully everything's going to be a little bit more honest going forward. But all in all, I'm rooting for Firefly and wish them the best. And yeah, I hope they find those satellites.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so curious about what could have caused this, because it's just so weird. Manov-san commented that there are instances where satellites fail to detach from their stage even after reaching correct orbit. So as I said, it might be that I'm young and inexperienced in the space industry, but I have not heard this before.
I haven't seen it myself, but I'm trying to bring it up now. Somebody mentioned that you could actually see the satellites departing from the stage during the most recent flight. So I haven't seen that myself, but apparently, I'll see. I'm not even in the right place anymore.
I remember seeing something that Firefly released, but I wonder if that was an animation and not an actual. Because it's not so easy to have live footage from stage 2, but I mean, it's also not impossible. So yeah.
Oh, I think it looks not. It doesn't look like a render. It looks genuine.
Okay, you can share your screen if you want to. I don't know if. Yeah, people are saying that. Yeah, I mean, if the live stream. Okay, so if you can see the satellites deploy and they're in the correct orbit, and because also like the rocket is not the first time that this rocket flew, right? So they know the vibrations, they know this, like these things are not, I mean, it's super weird. It's a very big mystery to me, because it should, yeah. And remember what Peter Beck said, that the rocket contracts are if you have an on-purpose ignition of the rocket engines, like that's the end of the rocket contract. Or like that is your rocket contract fulfilled. So whose mistake would it be if they said to the satellites that, you know, inside the rocket, like this is the vibration, and we're going to take you to this orbit and release you here, and they did that, and then the satellites didn't survive the vibration. I mean, it's a very, very interesting topic.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah. All right. We go to the next interesting space industry news, and that is SpaceX had yet another failure, but I don't know if you can call this a failure. They had a booster that tipped over after it has completed 22 flights and landings. And SpaceX had like, I think it was like 230 straight successful landings. Yeah, the FAA calls it a failure, which is so funny because nobody else lands rockets. As far as I know, they have the FAA okay to launch again. So whatever they had, it was sorted out. But do you think it's a failure that your rocket tipped? I mean, if Neutron would tip over on its 23rd reused flight, I would be jumping from happiness.
Yeah, I wouldn't call this one a failure. Like, to me, it's like the mission objective is to deliver satellites, and anything outside of that is like kind of, you know, success or failures, or you know what I mean? Yeah. So no, I wouldn't call this a failure, especially after 22 flights. Like, come on, they're doing something that nobody's even done more than like even 2 times. Like,
and I think that the Block 5 Falcon 9 was engineered for 10 reflights, and this one has done 22. I would love to see their bookkeeping or the P&L on just this booster. Like, how many times has it earned back its money before it was blowing up?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive though, that track record.
Peter Beck, who thinks that this is what Neutron will look like on the first test flight? You know what? I think that would be a success, because that means that Neutron like went into orbit, or like, you know, the second stage went into orbit. And if we don't stick the first landing, I think it's an interesting conversation, because I think the most important thing on the first test flight of Neutron is that we make it to orbit, because then customers can wholeheartedly sign, you know, customer like these big contracts, because we have a working vehicle. And the fact that it lands, it's sort of like Rocket Lab's problem and their own margin problem, you know, like the margin improve with the landing, but that has nothing to do with the customers.
100%. Yeah. The customers, they're only going to care like, can you get my refrigerator to orbit? Then we're good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so it's funny because this week I felt like it was a very slow news week, and then when I was like preparing for the Rocket Lab weekly, I was like, wow, a lot has happened also in Rocket Lab, but also in the space industry. So this is another interesting one, which I think will have many big implications and potentially good implications for Rocket Lab. So NASA is going to need 2.7 billion for another SLS rocket. Oh wait, sorry, just the thing to move and hold the rocket. The Government Accountability Office, per usual, with the gory details. So the original contract for this, I don't know if you can call it the transporter erect, it's normally called, or the rocket tower. So the original budget is 383, which I want to just point out now that budget from the beginning is more than all of Neutron's budget, with being with building a new pad, building new factories, and building, okay, like the Neutron doesn't have a tower, right? But still, the whole rocket development of Neutron is cheaper than the original budget of this tower. The original delivery date is March 23. The current status, contract value increased to 1.1 billion as of June 24. Delivery delayed to May 26, over 3 years later than the original plan. And again, it's not the rocket, it's the freaking tower. NASA's latest official estimate, total project cost 1.8 billion, delivery date even later, September 27. And NASA OIG projections is that the total cost would be 2.7 billion and delivery August 2027. This is a cost plus contract, not a fixed price contract. What did you think when you saw this?
I mean, I don't want to get too political on the show, but if any organization, any company ran the way that this particular example is showing us, the company would not exist. Like, something needs to change. And if I was an American watching, like looking at just that, like I don't know, like to kind of zoom it out and make it a little not so pessimistic too. It's like I've had a number of conversations where space as a topic gets brought up, right? And a lot of people who aren't very space savvy, their first thing that they like to say is like, well, it's really expensive, right? And it is expensive until you look at like literally anything else. Like, I mean, compare it to like, you know, military is a big one, obviously. And it's like, there's just a lot of money that is being used maybe less effectively than it could be, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's the nicest way to put it. It's like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And like, if I was an American taxpayer, I'd be a little bit like, are you sure you guys can't do anything more effective than like $2.7 billion
for a tower?
For a tower? Like, that's, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a more effective way to get done what you're trying to get done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean,
but like, sorry to interrupt. I guess that's why we're all here, though.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, because that's also what I wanted to say, that in the past, like, this was the only way how space was done. It was cost plus contracts. Everything was late and everything was way over budget. I mean, prime examples is the James Webb Telescope. I think it was supposed to be $1 billion and delivered in 5 years or something. And instead it took 20 years and it was $10 billion in the end, like 10 times over budget. SLS is another good example. They're super late, super over budget. I don't have the exact numbers. And more NASA is going into hiring private companies that work for fixed price contracts. Now, the only thing with a fixed price contract that I think we need to keep in mind is that it's a fixed price contract. So when you have cost overruns, it's like your investors have to eat that. And an example of this is Starliner by Boeing, which has gotten almost double the money compared to SpaceX's Dragon capsule. And it's a fixed price contract, and I read that they have lost 1.6 billion, and it's still not a workable space capsule and is coming home uncrewed from the International Space Station. So I think that this news has created a lot of outrage, and I think that this is very positive for Rocket Lab and private space companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I have an honest question to you. Do you ever worry that because you know, every time Rocket Lab has what do you call it? You know, a new big contract announcement, like this SDA contract announcement, right? We always take it as a given positive, like, oh, we just made 500 million, right? But it's a fixed price contract, and is there a chance that they miscalculate on the offer, and then, you know, to deliver the satellites would cost Rocket Lab 600 million, at which point it would be a huge curse to the company?
Like, yeah, it's definitely gone through my mind, but like, kind of circling back to the Escapade, I wish I had a reference for it. Maybe it was in a recent Rocket Lab interview, but apparently they were getting a bit of shit from, I think, folks at NASA, because they were kind of upset at how quick Rocket Lab was able to do it. Kind of like, hey, you're making other people look bad here. You got to dial it down a bit. So I don't think that and we know that Rocket Lab isn't just like, hey, well, we're like, it's not so much like with the Capstone, where it was like, we'll do this, like, you know, Capstone is a mission that went at a loss, and that was kind of to prove, like, yeah, we're serious. This little Electron, it's going to take a spacecraft to the moon. I think a lot of the bloat that we see in the cost plus crew, we'll call it, I think a lot of that is just like comfortability and borderline laziness. I don't think a lot of that is actually needed, but it's that thing. It's like it's people are the most effective when they're forced to be effective. And I think that maybe that's what Rocket Lab thrives in, and I think maybe that's where the rest of the industry needs to pivot towards. Yeah, because all this cost plus stuff, that's just showing people, like, hey, you like your job, right? Well, or you like $20,000. Well, you probably like $25,000 even more. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, let's take 2 extra weeks for the project, and it facilitates lethargy, and that's not a kind of energy that you want within your organization.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that is basically, I just want to take a few questions from the comments. There is one little news left. So Manovsan is asking, what effect do you think the upcoming Fed rate cuts will have? Do you think it's fully priced in, or will there be some jump in Rocket Lab? I think it will still rise, pricing in next cut. What do you think about this?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm not even sure like what direction to tell you.
The problem is, I think that right now we're not sure what is driving the price of Rocket Lab. Is it Wall Street bets? Is it macro? Is it because we have really outdone everything in the except for ASTS? So are we going up because of ASTS? Are we going up because? And until we get a handle on that, I think it's very hard to
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I think a lot of this is kind of like a ASTS hangover. And like, honestly, I think that a lot of what happens with Rocket Lab over the short term is probably going to be more to do with ASTS than Rocket Lab. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, ASTS has had, like, it fell from the top 38. I mean, it's almost 30% down. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I'll just share my. Is my screen? Yeah. So ASTS is down from the peak, which is almost $40, about 30%, and if you compare Rocket Lab with that, I think we fared really, really well. We are only down, yeah, what is it? I mean, it's more than 10, less than 20%. 70, yeah, like 15%. But we also didn't go up as much as ASTS. So
what's your take on ASTS? I've done like virtually no research. Like somebody was, you know, I'm like, I heard the name at like $5, and I'm kind of like, I opened up their income statement and was like, no, I don't do non-revenue companies, and missed the boat entirely.
Yeah, here's my take. When the stock was at $8, I did a video that this could be a $64 stock, but you're pricing everything on future execution. And I think that it's, if the plans go through as they want and they execute perfectly, it's a $64 stock. But they are at zero, like it's like they have to climb the Mount Everest, and then like it's not a bet that I would take. Like the risk reward for me is not there, but I think if there is investors who can face this risk, it was a good investment at 8, but not for me.
Yeah. And so do they have like a proof of concept? Like they've launched satellites in the past, but they're big ones upcoming like in September, right? Is that?
Yeah, so they had one satellite that was working, like, so it proved out the tech. Okay. They have 5 satellites that is being launched very, very shortly. And where they did insanely good is when they were down in the $2, they were like a bankruptcy risk, and like you didn't know where their funding was going to come. And so this is the too long didn't read it version. Where I think that they did exceptionally good is that they went to the big teleco companies, and they, instead of competing with them, they partnered with them, and some of them even invested in them and prepaid the future revenue to them. So basically, like, you had a huge increase because, you know, the bankruptcy risk lessened a lot. I think it's still a bit questionable how they can finance their full constellation of satellites. And as Dave G said, it's sort of ironic because the higher the stock price goes, you know, the bigger the market cap, the easier it is to raise money. So ironically, the higher the stock goes, the safer it becomes. So where they did exceptionally good is that they basically partnered with I think AT&T and other really big telecos, and then they have a like many analyst projections of like how much money they can make from subscriptions, which I think is like that's the biggest question mark in the story. Like, are those projections correct? And if they're correct, I mean, this is a money printer. I mean, it's a $64 stock, but are they correct? Or are they going to have that much signups from people who are interested in space mobiles, you know? Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Let me see if I missed some comments. Yeah, Dave's wife sold. Here it is. So remember, Dave's new wife sold all her shares at around 7%. Yes, that woman has a freakish ability so far to predict the tops on Rocket Lab, and then she always buys back when it's like at 4 or 3 or something like this. And then she has ridden this wave 3 times now, I think. So I think Dave has found a definite keeper, and this strategy is going to work until it doesn't work. So one day Rocket Lab is not going to come back down, and then I believe that she's going to miss on huge gains, but she's not I guess she's doing it for fun and not as serious about Rocket Lab as us, and that's okay. You know, there's different mentalities and trading strategies.
Do you know, is she doing it like more? Maybe I should ask Dave next time I talk to him, but does she do it more on like is it more like a technical analysis type deal that she does, or does she like?
I mean,
getting
when I
scenarios,
asked
like,
Dave, he said that she just really doesn't like. She has no seriousness about it, right? So she's like,
Nice.
we ran so much, I'll just sell all of it, you know, like I.
Well, it's working.
So, yeah. So a lot of people are wondering, will the stock go down again? And it's a very, very good question. And I wish I could tell you no. And again, we keep coming back to the problem is I don't have a grip on what's driving the stock price of Rocket Lab currently. And Rocket Lab is really a funny beast to me because I think that the fair value of the company is at around $6 to $8, right? So at the current level, we're at low fair value. I think if we would go up to $8, it would still be fairly valued. And why did we go down to the 3.5s? Like I never got that. I never understood how we could go that low. And then we recovered very nicely. And then now we had an insane rally, like since this Japanese carry trade scare. We went from 4 to almost, 750, which is like 70% up in 2 weeks. I don't know why we did that. So I really don't know what the stock price is going to do. All I know is that if we go back down to the 4s, it's a really good deal. Like like Rocket Lab as a company is not getting worse. So if we go back down to the 4s, you guys know what to do. That's all I know. I don't know if you Scott have a better better viewpoint than me.
No, like I'm not gonna act like I have a magic ball or anything, but like if you're like I'm under the impression obviously that it's going to go down, but I'm also not convinced enough that like for those who haven't seen the last time I was on, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I trimmed 20% of my position. So, and that's just like kind of under the assumption that the price is going to go down. But obviously I didn't sell the remaining 80% because it could not go down again. Right. So I didn't want to sell everything. Cause I don't know, the market's a strange place. Like who knows what's going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And so like kind of what you're saying too, like I do see Rocket Lab as overvalued, or well, valued more richly than other companies in similar-ish scenarios. Like I've been looking at Redwire, I've been reading about them a lot the past couple of weeks, and their price to sales is a 1.5 compared to Rocket Lab's, I think 7, 8, give or take. So if you're looking at just that metric alone, which obviously you shouldn't just look at that one metric alone, it looks very expensive. So I don't know, just food for thought, really. I'm not going to try to predict like it's going to go up or down. I'm assuming it's going to go back down. I assume we'll probably see the 5s again. Probably mid 5s is what I'm assuming. Hopefully lower. Like if it goes back down to 4, I'll just keep adding. Make Rocket Lab a larger position than originally planned. But yeah, that's really it.
I mean, to give more data on my side, I think anything is possible. I think to go back to the 5s and below, because the company is progressively doing better and better and better. So I think that, and on top of it, there's rate cuts coming, which we know that it will benefit. So probably the floor that the stock has is increasing with time. And to like at any time we can get a huge contract announcement. We know that they are going for doubling the backlog, which would go from 1 billion to 2 billion. In our interview, Adam Spice said that they don't have an arbitrary goal that by the end of this year it has to be 2 billion, which I guess in one way was cool to say, but in another way I was like, I wish that they had that goal, so we know that okay, there's 1 billion more contracts coming. But we don't know. That's the truth. But any moment we can get an announcement that they have a new $500 million contract. And I think that could potentially put the stock in the 8s, 9s, and maybe up to the 10s. I have a hard time to see the stock going higher than that until Neutron is is flying. And then I said, if Neutron is flying, the rates are low, and they are able to do an ASTS, like tease because I think that one of the reasons why Rocket Lab doesn't get credit for their space infrastructure, because we see from ASTS that it's not the revenue that you need. Like on ASTS, it's more like they contracted partners and they have very solid projections of what it will look like in the future. And the problem with Rocket Lab is that we know that they're getting a space infrastructure, but we don't know anything about it. So nobody knows what to put into the spreadsheets, right? So if they're able to come with a very good idea that they're able to communicate very clearly that analysts can count with, we might see the 15s, 20s, but these ones I view as highly, highly, highly unlikely.
Agreed. Yeah.
On the short term, I do think in the long term, the floor is moving up, and we are going higher and higher.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we'll see 4s again. Like, I'm hoping so. Obviously, I'd love to add more, but like exactly what you're saying. It's like the closer that we get to Neutron, the higher that baseline is going to be.
Yeah. Cool. I guess the last news that I wanted to cover is ABL Space Systems announced layoffs yesterday. They are a space company that their niche is that they're trying to launch on a portable launch pad. So they have like military containers that carry the rocket and the launch pad. And their niche is that wherever you need them to launch from, that's where they can launch from. And they were running tests on their imminent test flight, and the rocket blew up on the test pad. And that one basically caused that they are firing people now. My only comment on this is space is very hard. I think also that the age of newcomers to the small launch industry is very, very limited. And we are not sure if Firefly is going to make it, not sure if Relativity is going to make it. And ABL is even like lower on the list. Do you have any thoughts regarding this, Scotto?
No, I think you nailed it. Space is hard. Like it's unfortunate, but it's kind of the nature of the beast. We've seen a lot of fires lately. And now I'm thinking of it, there's that German one, ABL, Amazon, or Blue Origin rather. That hardware, whatever that was. Yeah. It's tough business.
Curtis, 20K shares is a millionaire status at $50 a share. You will see it in 48 months. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against the $50 target, but the only way that I see it possible is Neutron flying and them giving a very, very good picture about their space infrastructure that analysts can count on, and then we get like this ASTS effect. That's the only way but it's like we have to get lucky. Like it's basically like a best case scenario, not impossible, but But the $50 a share, I think, is definitely possible, but way more than 48 months, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that was the show for this week. Thank you so much, Scotto, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Is there any last final words that we should watch maybe in the coming weeks?
Nothing that comes to mind. No.
Well, all right. Thank you for everyone for being here. Please make sure you sub to this channel and you sub also to Scotto's channel. The link to his channel is in the description box below. I want to give a special shout out to the channel members and also anyone who supports Scotto's channel. You guys help out our channels in more ways than I think you think or know. So you're very appreciated. And see everyone in a week. Yeah, ciao.